Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
That's Dumbledore. I'm not even kidding. Our very own Lord Farquaad is now playing Albus Dumbledore. In all seriousness, John Lithgow, who plays Lord Farquaad, is now slated to also play Albus Percival Wilfrid Bryan Dumbledore, which I think is fantastic for one reason and one reason alone, because the world's most famous Harry Potter meme, where Dumbledore opens his Hogwarts speech every single year by saying, "Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make," is finally coming to fruition. We all have this meme coming to fruition, and I would love nothing more than for John Lithgow to sneak this in Dumbledore's opening speech during Harry's first year. How amazing would it be if he maybe under his breath muttered, "Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make." But in all seriousness, I have heard a lot of rumblings about John Lithgow as he has essentially been offered the role of Dumbledore. We don't know for sure if he's taken it yet, but this is what has been reported by a number of different sources. And I have scoured the internet and I've seen two major concerns, and I want to address both of those concerns as well as some of my excitement for him to take the role. First of all, he is a person that no one really thought was going to take the role. In all my scourings, and I have looked for months about people's like top 10 people that they want to play for Albus Dumbledore, I've never seen John Lithgow on any of those ranks. But the two main concerns that people have for Lithgow playing Dumbledore are, one, that he's not British. And I understand this one. And this one is a hard one for me to kind of wrap my head around, because I want a whole British cast as well. But never fear, because an article from Collider that is called 10 American actors who can pull off a perfect British accent ranked. Oh, he was great. John Lithgow is at number 6. He plays Winston Churchill in the Crown series. And I haven't seen The Crown, really. I need to go watch that. Maybe I'll watch that for the first time soon. But I watched some YouTube videos about him playing Winston Churchill, and his accent was fantastic. He's also in London right now doing, I think, Shakespeare plays. So he has the British persona by honor, maybe. And he's an Emmy Award-winning actor multiple times over. I think 6 times over. So I think he could pull off this role with no problem as far as his Britishness is concerned. The second thing that people are concerned about, which I understand too, and maybe is a greater concern, is his age. He's apparently 79 years old. Not apparently, he is 79 years old. And he needs to last another about 10 years. Maybe 8 years, because we all know Dumbledore dies at the end of Half-Blood Prince. Spoiler alert for those who don't know that. But he needs to last. I think that this could kind of be said of anybody who is acting, to be completely honest. I know he's old, but you'd risk it with anybody. Someone could always get in a freak accident and, pass away. We got very lucky with the Harry Potter series on TV, or not on TV, via movie, because we only had one Dumbledore change. I think he'll be okay. He seems like he's in very good health. So I'm not that worried about that. And I don't want to make this an existential essay about how anybody could die at any given moment and, no one's assured of tomorrow. We don't want that for this essay. But I do want to talk about some of the movies that he's been in, and I want to offer up some of my excitement for it. So these are the 3 people who play Dumbledore: Richard Harris, Michael Gambon, and Jude Law. And I think each of these actors are good and bad in different ways. Now, my biggest critique is of Michael Gambon. I think he plays a very poor version of Dumbledore, although this is the one that most people are most familiar with. I think he's clearly the worst Dumbledore, in my opinion. I think Richard Harris is the next worst. I actually think Jude Law is the best. But I think each of them do bring a aspect of Dumbledore that is vitally important that I think Lithgow also brings. The first one is Richard Harris. I think he brings warmth and kindness to the role of Dumbledore that the other two seem to be missing to some extent. Jude Law has that to a bit, but I think Richard Harris has this grandfatherly warmth about him that I think is really important for the role of Dumbledore. Michael Gambon, on the other hand, brings severity and ferocity to the role. Whereas Richard Harris was a bit frailer, and you didn't think that he was one of the greatest wizards or of the age. The other people were surely more powerful than him. When Michael Gambon came into the role, he had this aura about him. You could believe that he was one of the greatest wizards of the age. And I think Lithgow also has that. He seems to have weight and power behind like his persona or like aura. I think, and I want to talk about some roles that I've seen him in that I think he has that. And then Jude Law, I think he does bring that warmth, but he also brings that childlike wonder, that playfulness that is so essential to Dumbledore. He brings that like whimsical attitude that Dumbledore has that I think the other two kind of lacked to some extent. And I think Lithgow has that as well. I recently saw John Lithgow in a movie called Conclave, which was a phenomenal movie, by the way. It was so interesting. And in that movie, I saw someone who had a lot of dirty secrets. And they played this character who was an American priest who was trying to rise to the papacy. And it was fascinating because he was trying to hide a lot of things about his life. And he was doing it in a weirdly convincing way in the movie that I didn't know if I was on his side or if I wasn't on his side. Weirdly, when I was watching that movie, I wasn't thinking, oh, this could be a good Dumbledore. But now that I look back on it, I think it's an actually great depiction of Dumbledore. With Dumbledore, when you read Harry Potter for the first time, you read Dumbledore as this character who's untouchable, who has no real scars or who has nothing wrong with him, who is always in control of certain situations. Harry reveres this person. When you read it a second time, you know that that's not exactly true. Yes, Harry reveres him, but there's deep, dark secrets in Dumbledore's life. And maybe the first reading that you had of Dumbledore was just through Harry's perspective. In fact, it was through Harry's perspective because the entire books are through Harry's perspective. So when we reread it, I think it's important that you know that Dumbledore has more heft and weight to him. And I think everyone kind of reads that character as like someone who really does have deep, dark scars that they're dealing with. And I think Lithgow could do that really, really well. I mean, his warmth was seen in The Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I saw this movie where he's a grandfather and he's kind of dealing with Alzheimer's. So he was fantastic in that. He was also a father in Interstellar that he did really well. So he could have this fatherly or grandfatherly persona. But again, this movie Conclave, where he's playing this priest who's trying to rise to the papacy, it made me think that he could do this role really, really well because, again, he has this like burden on him. And I think actually it would be a really interesting depiction of Dumbledore to have an actor who comes into this role looking like they're carrying some kind of weight. I know it's a really small thing, but to me, that's an important part to the role of Dumbledore. Someone who seems like they have a lot behind that role. Like when you look at them immediately, you don't think you know everything about them from the start. That they seem to have a deeper kind of backstory. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for, like more foreshadowing in this role to come. But that's kind of all I have. I'm very excited for Lithgow to actually take this role. I think he could do exceptionally well. I'm really excited for when different casting decisions come out. I think they've told us that they won't reveal any more casting decisions. This one was kind of a leak, but they won't reveal any more casting decisions until they reveal the actual Golden Trio and who they are and who they casted in those roles. So I think we're going to get that very soon because if we're getting casting leaks already, I think we're going to get more and more as time goes on. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think Lithgow would actually be good or if he would maybe fail at this role because we're all entitled to our opinion. But I'm very excited about the role that he could potentially take. I think he would be very, very good in this. But let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you like the video and make sure you subscribe for more Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Brandon Sanderson or any of that other nerdy content. Make sure you subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.